AITA for making my girlfriend's fake breakup reel when she tried to come back. I'm Beckham, 34, and by the time Julia and I had been together for 5 years, our lives had settled into a rhythm that felt stronger than a title on paper. We weren't married, but we had Sunday grocery runs, a shared calendar full of birthdays and dinners, a tablet we both used for recipes and streaming apps, and the kind of inside jokes that made other people roll their eyes at game night. I lived on my own. She lived on her own, but we spent enough time in each other's spaces that it sometimes felt like our relationship had its own weather. A quiet Wednesday dinner meant everything was fine. A weird pause over coffee meant something was coming. I thought I knew those changes. I thought we were old enough and deep enough into this thing to say what we meant. We weren't perfect. We had normal arguments about plans, money, family obligations, who forgot to text back, and who left dishes in the sink after promising not to. But I honestly believed we had outgrown games. If Julia needed space, I thought she could say that. If she was unhappy, I thought she could tell me before she started rewriting the relationship behind my back. The first sign was her phone. It wasn't in some dramatic way where she was hiding under blankets typing secret messages. It was smaller than that. She started tilting the screen away when I walked into the room. She would smile at something, then turn serious when I asked what was funny. She began saying things like, "Just a group chat," or "Nothing, you wouldn't get it," in this breezy tone that made me feel annoying for noticing. Then her nights got vague. "I'm going out with people." Which people? Why does it matter? It didn't matter because I needed a full report. It mattered because for 5 years, we had talked like partners. If I was grabbing dinner with Logan, I said I was grabbing dinner with Logan. If she was going out with Renee, she said she was going out with Renee. Suddenly, asking normal questions made me feel like I was applying for a security clearance. One Thursday night, she came over with takeout, barely touched the food, and sat on the edge of my couch like she was waiting for a meeting to start. I knew that posture. It meant she had already had the conversation in her head and was just waiting for me to catch up. After 10 minutes of poking at noodles, she said, "I think we need to act broken up for a month." I looked at her, waiting for the rest of the sentence. She gave a nervous little laugh. "Don't look at me like that. I'm trying to understand what you just said." "It's not a breakup," she said quickly. "It's more like a reset. Like a month where we don't act so attached." "Then what are we during that month?" She leaned back and rubbed her forehead. "Why do you have to label everything?" "Because you're asking me to pretend we're broken up. I'm asking for space, Beckham. That's all. Are we still exclusive?" Her face changed just enough that I noticed. "You're making this so much heavier than it needs to be," she said. "I'm asking what I'm agreeing to. You're acting like I'm asking permission to cheat." I didn't use that word. I asked if we're still exclusive. She stared down at the coffee table, then reached for her drink. "I don't want to turn this into rules. Rules are how people avoid hurting each other." "No," she said, sharper now. "Rules are how people control each other." That should have been enough for me. Looking back, maybe that was the whole answer. But I loved her, and love can make a smart person stand there holding a red flag and asking if maybe it's just poor lighting. So I stayed calm. I asked whether we were telling our friends. I asked whether we were canceling couple plans. I asked whether she still expected me to go to her Aunt Denise's dinner the next week. I asked if we were supposed to stop saying goodnight, stop checking in, stop acting like boyfriend and girlfriend in private, but keep it up in public. Every question made her more irritated. "Can you not turn growth into a contract?" she asked. "This isn't growth yet. This is you asking for something without explaining what it costs." She crossed her arms. "This is exactly why I need space." That sentence did a lot of work for her over the next couple of weeks. The fake breakup began on a Monday, because apparently even emotional loopholes needed a clean calendar date. By Tuesday, she had taken down a few couple photos from social media. Not all of them. Just enough to make people wonder, but not enough to force an explanation. On Wednesday, she started replying to my texts with the kind of delays and short answers people use when they want distance but still want to be chased. I didn't chase. I asked direct questions, and when she dodged them, I stopped asking the same ones. That first Friday, she texted me at 11:38 p.m. "Are you awake?" I stared at it for a full minute before replying. "Yes. Can we talk for 2 minutes?" "About what?" "I just feel weird." I almost called her. My thumb was already hovering over the button. For 5 years, if Julia felt weird, I was the person who picked up. If she got anxious after a night out, I talked her down. If something happened with her family, I listened. If she felt insecure, I reassured her. But she had asked to act broken up. And somehow, the only parts of being broken up she seemed interested in were the parts where I couldn't ask questions. So I typed back, "I'm sorry you're feeling weird. I don't think late-night emotional check-ins make sense if we're acting broken up." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Wow. Then nothing. The next morning, she sent me a picture of a coffee mug and the message, "So we're just cold now?" I answered, "I'm not being cold. I'm trying to respect what you asked for." She didn't respond for 6 hours. That same weekend, I got an alert from the shared household card we used for groceries and a few subscriptions. It wasn't a massive charge, but it was from a place we only went when she was making a night out of it. I texted her, "Did you mean to use the shared card?" She replied, "It's not a big deal." I said, "It is if I'm helping pay for your Freedom Month." She called immediately. "Are you serious right now?" she said as soon as I answered. "Yes." "It was one charge." "Then use your own card." "You're punishing me." "No. I'm matching the situation you created." She scoffed. "I knew you'd do this. I knew you would make me feel guilty for needing room to breathe." "Then breathe," I said. "But don't ask me to hold my breath for a month." She went quiet. I thought maybe that would make her see how unfair the whole thing was. Instead, she adjusted the story. The first time I realized that was at Renee's game night. Renee had hosted our group for years. Nothing fancy, just snacks on the kitchen island, folding chairs dragged from the garage, people arguing over card games they barely understood, and Logan always bringing chips because, as he put it, "I know my limits." That night, Julia and I showed up separately. I had almost skipped it, but I didn't want to disappear from my own friend group just because Julia had decided our relationship needed a costume change. The group chat before the party had already felt off. "Renee, game night at 7. Bring whatever you want. No one bring that weird spinach dip again." "Logan, I'm bringing chips because I know my limits." "Julia, Beckham and I might come separately. Long story, but we're fine." Someone replied, "Wait, are you too good?" "Julia, we're just figuring out space." Some people struggle with that. I read that line twice and put my phone down. At Renee's, Julia acted light and charming. She laughed too loudly at jokes. She floated between conversations. She kept just enough distance from me that people noticed, but not enough that anyone could ask without feeling rude. Halfway through a game, Renee said, "You two okay? You're usually a team for this one." Julia smiled before I could answer. "Beckham's learning how to give me space. It's been hard for him, but we're working on it." A couple of people gave awkward little laughs. I looked at her. That's an interesting way to put it. Her smile tightened. "What?" "It's true." Then she added, "To the table, some people don't realize love doesn't mean ownership." The room shifted. Someone suddenly became very focused on refilling a drink. Renee looked down at the cards. Logan's eyes flicked to me, then away. I could have corrected her right there. I could have said, "Actually, Julia asked me to fake a breakup without defining whether we were exclusive." I could have made the whole table uncomfortable enough to end the night. But I didn't want to look like the guy she was describing. So I picked up my cards and said, "Your turn." That was the moment I understood she didn't just want freedom. She wanted freedom with an audience. Later, when I was rinsing a plate in Renee's kitchen, Logan came in with an empty bowl. He stood beside me for a second, like he was deciding whether friendship was worth the drama. Finally, he said, "I don't want to get in the middle." "Usually means you're already near the middle," I said. He gave a tired laugh. "Fair. Look, people are hearing a version where you're not giving her room to breathe." I shut off the water. "From Julia?" "Mostly." "What exactly is she saying?" "That you're taking the break personally. That she's trying to do something healthy, and you're making her feel guilty." I nodded slowly. My chest felt hot, but my voice stayed flat. "That's useful to know." "I'm not saying everyone believes it," Logan said. "I'm just saying that's what's out there." "I appreciate you telling me." He nodded and left it there, which was one of the reasons I trusted him. That night, I stopped trying to solve things in person. Not because I wanted to trap Julia, but because every face-to-face conversation ended with her saying I had misunderstood, overreacted, or made it weird. I needed clarity in words she couldn't later reshape. The next morning, I sent her a text. "I need to understand what you're actually asking from me. Are we a couple during this month? Are we exclusive? Are we telling people we're separated? Am I expected to attend family dinners and couple events?" I won't agree to a situation where you get to be single while I get assigned the responsibilities of a boyfriend. She answered 20 minutes later. I can't believe you're turning personal growth into a legal document. I replied, I'm asking basic relationship questions. She wrote, I need this month to see what I feel when I'm not acting like someone's girlfriend. There it was. Not space. Not a reset. Not less attached. Not acting like someone's girlfriend. I stared at that message for a while. Then I wrote back, understood. Then I won't act like your boyfriend during this month. She sent a thumbs up reaction, which somehow annoyed me more than if she had cursed me out. So I started removing myself from the parts of her life that only made sense if we were still together. I canceled the anniversary dinner reservation I had made weeks earlier. I took my name off her Aunt Denise's dinner in the shared calendar. I removed reminders for her cousin's birthday, her dentist appointment she always forgot, and the weekend brunch she had expected me to drive to. I stopped paying for shared non-essentials that were really just her conveniences. I changed a couple of streaming passwords, not to be petty, but because the accounts were mine and she had made it clear she wanted separation when it suited her. She noticed within a day. Did you cancel our anniversary dinner? She asked over the phone. Yes. Why would you do that? Because you said you needed to see what you feel when you're not acting like someone's girlfriend. Anniversary dinners are girlfriend things. You're being cruel. No, Julia. I'm being accurate. She made a frustrated sound. You know I didn't mean everything. That's the problem. You won't say what you mean until I do something you don't like. There was a pause. Then her tone softened. I just don't want us to lose ourselves in the relationship. That's a fair conversation, I said. But that's not the conversation you started. She didn't have an answer for that. A few days later, Denise called me. Denise was Julia's aunt, but after 5 years, she had become family adjacent to me too. She sent me holiday leftovers, teased me about my plain taste in desserts, and always acted like Julia and I getting married was less a possibility and more a scheduling issue. Beckham, honey, she said, are you still coming Friday? Julia said you might be busy, but I wanted to check. I made that lemon cake you pretend not to like. My stomach sank. I don't think I'll be there, Denise. Oh, she paused. Everything okay? I had no interest in dragging Denise into it, so I kept it simple. Julia and I are taking space, and I don't think it would be honest for me to show up like everything is normal. Another pause. Longer this time. She didn't say it like that. I'm sorry she didn't. Denise sighed. Well, I hope you two figure out what you're doing. Me too, I said, even though I was starting to think I already had. That evening, Julia sent me a text. Can you just come to Denise's dinner this one time? It'll be weird if you don't. I replied, it's supposed to be weird. We're acting broken up. She wrote, can you not make me look bad in front of my family? I sat there looking at the message, feeling the last of my guilt turn into something cleaner. I wrote back, I'm not your boyfriend in public and your backup plan in private. She didn't answer. The twist came on a Wednesday night, and it wasn't because I went looking. Our shared tablet was on my kitchen counter. We used it for recipes, streaming logins, and the group calendar because neither of us liked cooking from our phones. I had already started removing myself from calendar reminders that no longer applied to me. Renee's backyard gathering was coming up that weekend, and the reminder still had both our names on it. I tapped the calendar notification to edit it, and as I did, a message preview dropped down from Matt. Matt was in our friend group. Not my closest friend, but close enough that he had been at birthdays, game nights, and cookouts. He was funny in a lazy way, the kind of guy who could make a whole table laugh without ever being the person anyone relied on. I had noticed Julia laughing at his comments more lately, but I had told myself not to be paranoid. The preview said, I thought you said this was just about feeling free. Don't make me the reason you blow up your relationship. I didn't open the message. I didn't scroll. I didn't try to find more. I just stood there in my kitchen with the tablet screen dimming in front of me, feeling like something inside me had gone very still. That was the first honest sentence I had seen all month, and it came from the wrong person. Suddenly, all the vague nights made sense. The phone tilt, the half-removed photos, the refusal to say whether we were exclusive, the public narrative about me being insecure. Julia hadn't asked for space because she needed to think clearly. She had asked for a trial run. If Matt turned into something real, she could claim our relationship had already been broken. If he backed away, she could come home and call it growth. I wanted to call her. I wanted to ask how long it had been going on. I wanted to ask whether she thought I was stupid or just loyal enough not to matter. Instead, I put the tablet down and made dinner. That sounds colder than it felt. My hands were shaking while I chopped vegetables. I burned the first piece of chicken because I kept staring at nothing. But I knew if I confronted her in that state, she would pull me into a fog of half-denials and emotional language. She would make the argument about how I found out, even though I hadn't gone looking. She would cry, accuse, soften, deflect, and somehow we would end the night debating my tone instead of her choices. So I waited. Over the next week, Matt clearly cooled off. I didn't know the details, and I didn't need them. I just watched Julia's behavior change. Her vague confidence faded. She started texting me casual little things again, like nothing had happened. Saw your favorite cereal at the store and laughed. I miss when we weren't making everything so heavy. Are you still going to Renee's this weekend? The last one told me everything. I replied, I'm going. She wrote, good. I think it'll be nice to be around everyone and not make things awkward. I stared at that phrase. Not make things awkward. Julia had a talent for creating a fire and then blaming the smoke for being dramatic. I typed, I'm not the one who made the relationship conditional. She didn't reply. Renee's backyard gathering was on a warm Saturday evening. The kind where people stood around coolers, balancing paper plates with grilled food, drifting from one conversation to another. Somebody had brought brownies. Logan was sitting in a folding chair near the fence, eating chips like a man committed to his brand. Renee moved through the yard making sure everyone had drinks and pretending she wasn't watching me and Julia. Julia arrived about 20 minutes after I did. She looked good. Of course she did. She had always known how to enter a space like she was already forgiven. She said hi to people, laughed at something near the cooler, and then came straight to me. Hey, she said softly. Hey. She sat in the chair next to mine, even though there were empty chairs everywhere else. A few minutes later, she touched my shoulder while laughing at a joke. Then she called me babe when asking me to pass the napkins. I heard it. So did everyone within 6 feet. Logan looked into his cup like it had suddenly become fascinating. I passed the napkins without reacting. Julia leaned closer. Can you not be stiff? I'm sitting in a lawn chair, Julia. She gave me a warning look, then smiled at Renee, who had walked over with a plate in her hand. Renee glanced between us. So are you too good again? Julia answered too fast. We just needed a reset, she said. Beckham knows I was never really leaving. Something in me settled right then. Not exploded. Settled. I put my drink down on the grass beside my chair. That's not what you asked for, I said. Julia's smile froze. Beckham, you asked me to act like we were broken up for a month so you could feel free. I respected the breakup part. I never agreed to be kept on standby. The conversations around us thinned out. Not stopped exactly, but lowered. People can sense when a private argument has crossed into public air. Julia laughed once, sharp and fake. Wow. Okay, you're really doing this here. You started doing it here when you told people I was struggling to give you space. Her eyes flashed. I never said it like that. At game night, you said I was learning. You said love doesn't mean ownership. Because you were making me feel owned. No, I said. I was asking whether my girlfriend of 5 years wanted to stay my girlfriend while she tried not acting like one. Renee looked down. Someone behind me muttered, damn. Julia stood up. Can you not make me look bad in front of everyone? I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel confused. No. What embarrassed you is that I stopped playing the role you wrote for me. Her face went red. That's not fair, she said. You make it sound like I was using you. I pulled out my phone. I didn't show Matt's message. I didn't mention the notification. I wasn't going to turn a private mess into entertainment for the group, and I wasn't going to give Julia a chance to make the issue about someone else. I opened the text she had sent me and showed Renee, then Logan because he was close enough to see without me making a production of it. Julia's message was right there. I need this month to see what I feel when I'm not acting like someone's girlfriend. I put the phone away. You got your answer, I said. So did I. Julia's voice dropped. Beckham, stop. No. You don't get to break up with me temporarily and expect my loyalty permanently. The yard was painfully quiet now. Renee looked like she wanted to disappear into her own deck. Logan's jaw was tight. Matt wasn't there, which somehow made the whole thing cleaner. He had already done what people like Matt do when consequences arrive. He had backed away from the heat. Julia stepped closer and spoke low enough that only I could hear most of it. You're really going to throw away 5 years over one hard month? I stood up. No, I said. I'm ending 5 years because you used 1 month to show me what you thought I was worth. I thanked Renee for having me, even though my voice probably sounded strange, and I left without waiting for anyone to take a side. Julia followed me to the front. Beckham, please, she said. Can we talk without an audience? You liked the audience when I was the clingy boyfriend. That's not what I was doing. Then what were you doing? She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, no polished sentence came out. I said, I know about Matt. Her whole body changed. I didn't need more confirmation than that. I didn't go through your messages, I said. A preview came up on the tablet. I saw enough. She swallowed. It wasn't like that. Then say what it was like. She looked toward the backyard, like she was worried someone would come out and hear. He was just someone I could talk to. Before or after you asked me for the fake breakup? She started crying then, but quietly. Not dramatic sobs. Just tears she seemed angry at herself for having. I was confused, she said. No. You were covered. There's a difference. She wiped her face. He wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. That one almost made me laugh, but it hurt too much. You realize that makes it worse, right? How? You put 5 years of us on a table for someone who wasn't even serious. She shook her head. I didn't know what I wanted. And you wanted me waiting quietly while you figured out whether I was still useful. That's cruel. It's accurate. She crossed her arms around herself. So that's it. You're just done. Yes. The word came out calmer than I expected. I drove home with the windows down even though the air was too warm because I needed the noise. The fallout wasn't some dramatic explosion where everyone instantly turned on Julia. Real life usually doesn't work that cleanly. Some people stayed out of it. Some probably thought I should have handled it privately. One friend sent me a vague message about how relationships are complicated, which I ignored. But the story shifted. Renee texted the next morning. I'm sorry. I should have asked you instead of assuming. I wrote back, I appreciate that. A few minutes later, she added, for what it's worth, I don't think you were wrong to correct it. Logan called later that day. You okay? He asked. Not really. Yeah. Stupid question. No, it's a fair one. He sighed. I suspected there was more to it. I should have said something sooner. You told me when it mattered. Still, sorry, man. That was enough. I didn't need speeches. I didn't need a jury. I just needed the people who knew me to stop accepting Julia's version as fact. Matt disappeared from the group chat for a while. I heard from Logan, not as gossip, but as context, that Matt had told someone he didn't sign up for all that. That sounded exactly like him. He had enjoyed being wanted. He hadn't wanted responsibility. Once Julia's Freedom Month came with consequences, he stepped back like the ground had opened under him. Julia, meanwhile, tried every door. First she tried anger. I can't believe you humiliated me like that. I replied, I corrected something you said about me. Then she tried guilt. 5 years, and you won't even fight for us. I replied, I fought by asking for honesty. You called it control. Then she tried nostalgia. I found the mug from that rainy weekend. I miss us. I didn't answer that one. 3 days after the backyard gathering, Denise called again. I almost let it go to voicemail, but Denise hadn't done anything wrong. Hi, honey, she said, softer than usual. Hi, Denise. Julia told me you two broke up. Yes. She didn't give me much detail. I'm not sure it's my place to give you all of it. Denise was quiet for a second. That's probably answer enough. I closed my eyes. She said, I'm sorry. For what it's worth, you were always good to her. Thank you. And you don't have to come to dinner, obviously. I just wanted you to know the lemon cake offer wasn't conditional. That one got me. I laughed a little, even though I felt awful. I appreciate that. After that call, Julia texted me. Can you please come to Denise's dinner just once? She keeps asking questions, and I don't want this to turn into a whole thing. I wrote, it already is a whole thing. You just don't want to explain your part in it. She replied, it would help me. I answered, being your public stability is not my job anymore. That was the first time she didn't argue. The final conversation happened a week later. She asked to meet at my place because she didn't want to do this over text. I almost said no, but some part of me wanted to hear whether she could finally be honest without being cornered. She showed up in a sweatshirt she used to leave at my place. I hated that I noticed. We sat at my kitchen table. The same table where we had eaten takeout, planned holidays, sorted birthday gifts, and once spent 2 hours trying to build a tiny model house Renee had given us as a joke. Julia looked around like she was trying to remind both of us that history was in the room. I messed up, she said. I didn't answer right away. She continued. I handled it badly. I was confused and scared, and I didn't know how to say that without making it sound like I wanted to leave. But you did want to leave. I wanted to know what it would feel like. With Matt. She looked down. It wasn't physical. I believed her. Strangely, I did. But by then, that wasn't the point. That's not the only way to betray someone, I said. Her eyes filled again. I know. Do you? Yes. Then explain what you think you did. She took a shaky breath. I kept you there in case I regretted it. It was the first fully honest sentence she had said to me in a month. I nodded slowly. Yes. I hate that, she whispered. You should. She flinched. I didn't say it to hurt her. I said it because regret without accountability is just discomfort looking for sympathy. She wiped her face. Matt wasn't serious. He liked flirting and talking, but when things got real, he acted like I was crazy for having feelings about it. I'm not surprised. I realized I don't want to lose us. I looked at her across the table, and I felt the sadness of it more than the anger. 5 years doesn't vanish just because someone disrespects you. Love doesn't shut off cleanly. There was still a part of me that remembered the version of her who danced barefoot in my kitchen while pasta boiled, who knew exactly how I took my coffee, who could make me laugh in the middle of a bad day with one stupid face. But that version of her hadn't been strong enough to protect us from the version sitting in front of me. You didn't realize that when you had options, I said. You realized it when one of them disappeared. She started to speak, then stopped. I went on. The problem isn't that you needed space. People need space. The problem is that you wanted me waiting while you explored a different life, and you wanted everyone else thinking I was the reason it felt hard. I can fix that, she said quickly. I can tell people I was wrong. You can tell people whatever you want. It won't make me feel safe with you again. Beckham, please. I canceled the anniversary plan. I removed myself from the calendar. I'm separating the subscriptions this week. Anything of yours that is still here, I'll box up. She stared at me like the practical details were more shocking than the breakup itself. So you're really done? Yes. Her voice cracked. I thought you loved me. I did. I do, in some damaged way. But loving you doesn't mean volunteering to be your backup plan. She cried harder then. I let her. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because there was nothing left for me to rescue. That had been my role for too long, and she had counted on it surviving anything. When she left, she paused at the door. I wish I could go back, she said. I believe that too. I wish you had been honest before you needed consequences to understand why honesty mattered. She nodded, but I don't know if she really heard it. After she left, I walked through my place and removed the last small pieces of us. Her shampoo from the shower. Her extra charger from the outlet by the couch. The mug she always used even though she claimed she didn't have one. I boxed everything neatly because I wasn't angry enough to be cruel, and I wasn't soft enough to pretend. The next week, I sent the box with Logan because he offered and because I didn't need another doorway conversation. Julia sent one last text after she got it. I hope one day you understand I was just scared. I stared at it for a while. Then I replied, I understand you were scared. I also understand what you chose while you were scared. I blocked her after that. Not everywhere in some dramatic purge, but enough that my phone stopped being a place where she could keep testing whether I was still available. The friend group changed shape, because of course it did. Renee still invited me to things. Logan checked in without making it weird. Some people drifted toward Julia, some toward me. Most just got quieter. That was fine. I wasn't looking for custody of a social circle. What mattered was that I stopped letting Julia define me as insecure because I wanted clarity. I stopped confusing patience with strength. I stopped believing that being calm meant accepting whatever terms someone gave me. A month of space can be healthy when both people are honest about what space means. But Julia didn't ask for space. She asked for a waiting room. And I finally walked out of it. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.